Welcome to the Solemn Vanguard channel. The other day, I saw Kai from WCC do something very interesting. Because Vanguard is having its 10-year celebration, he went over the variety of decks he played throughout the years. And so I thought that was a really good idea, so I decided to steal it. And so today, we are checking out which decks I have been playing in these many years of Cardfight Vanguard. The first deck I got into the game with was Revengers. This was, I want to say, BT 12, and you essentially had Raging Form Dragon. I started with the Revenger trial deck, and the funny thing is we were at some con, an anime con, and my friends played Vanguard, and so I bought a deck. This store had a bunch of decks. I think they had all trial decks, and so I randomly picked the Revenger one, which just so happened to be the latest and strongest one because I was an edgelord. So I was like, oh, this looks dark and edgy, so I went for it, and of course that was a really solid pick, because I ended up picking Raging Form. And so with that deck, I think my very first locals, I got second place, which was pretty fun. But during that time, I actually didn't enter any major events because, well, I was just too new. I wasn't really enfranchised in the whole thing just yet, so I was just having fun at locals. And so for quite a while, I was just local Timmy. I played my Chat Noir Leopold Reverse as well. I also played some Seven Seas Night Mist thing. I think it was the Break Ride, something like that, together with Cocytus Reverse. So those were my decks. And then I quit right before Legion, I want to say, or around Legion, because I just didn't feel it. So I don't know when BT12 was, by the way. I'm not going to go by year, I'm just going to go by deck. So I quit, and then I came back during G era. So I came back with Tavas because for Christmas, my girlfriend actually bought me a Tavas trial deck. So that's pretty funny how that works. That's the way I got back into Vanguard. So I got back with Aqua Force, enjoyed that a lot. I also then realized that at the time, Revengers was still a good deck. Magically, you could play Revenger, Phantom Blaster Abyss, which I still had to buy, but that was okay. It was still Revengers. You were still playing Blaster Dark Revenger and Dorint and all that good stuff. You combined it with a lot of the Diablo support from the Legend deck, and so I enjoyed that quite a bit. But for that whole time, I was still just local Timmy. I was just having fun at locals. I might have entered BCSs at some point. I don't really remember, but I'll tell you when I start remembering I entered actual BCSs. So time went on, and I think I then picked up Sanctuary Guard Dragon as a deck. At the time, you combined this with blasters, and you basically did, Sangard, I think with Flogel stuff, something like that, Benon, Miron. It was all good stuff. My first decent tournament I attended was, I think, Dark Tournament, but it's possible I did some BCSs before that once again. So Dark Tournament was a self-made third-party circuit, let's say, and it was only, I think, 35 players, but I got second there. So given that I was local Timmy, that was my first time not doing awfully, second out of 35. Again, not a top, not a huge deal, but as local Timmy, I was excited as hell because that was the best I had done so far. I went to more BCSs with Sanctuary Guard and got destroyed. This was around the time where I got into like the actual regional circuit, and I just couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting better. I was getting frustrated very often, like, why is this one person, like Jay, why is Jay constantly topping? What does he know that I don't know? What am I doing wrong? Oh, then there's Lubo, I think, as well. Oh, he's playing the same deck as I am. Why is he topping? Why am I not topping? It must all be luck, or maybe they're doing even sinister dark stuff. Maybe that must be it. And so I just kept telling myself that it wasn't my fault. I kept just lying to myself. Vanguard's all luck, you guys. It's all trigger sacking. That's why I'm not topping. Or some people are cheating. That's why I'm not topping. And so, yeah, I got really stuck in that really dirty mindset. And I was still, playing and having fun and looking at it from a casual perspective. I told myself, like, yeah, I don't take it too seriously because it's all luck. Again, I'm very possibly getting some wrong timelines here. At one point, I played Seven Seas Rush. I don't know why. I think it was just like, this is broken. I want my top. I'm gonna get my top. And that's actually the one where I started doing the best for once. I was X1 until the very last round. My opponent flips up his starter and I see it's Gear Chronicle. And if you don't know, Gear Chronicle had 0 early game. They couldn't do anything to Seven Seas Rush for that reason. And you know what happened? I got stuck at grade 0. yeah, I was gonna have a free win. I was gonna go X1. I was finally gonna get my first top. But with a deck filled to the brim with grade 1s, I got against my best matchup. And I managed to get grade stuck at 0 for like 3 turns or something. So the guy just rode up and smashed my ass. And that is the way Solemn did not get his first top with arguably, obviously, a very brain-dead deck. A very stupid deck. If I had topped with 7 Seas Rush, I would have probably felt like hot shit and whoa, I'm so smart. But I wouldn't have deserved that top at all. Because that deck was just dumb. Like, it was super strong, so, like, picking it was smart. But it was not, you know, if little old me, who was at that time still not actually very good at the game, could almost stop with it, that says enough. Because with other decks, I consistently didn't. So yeah, 7 Seas Rush. I at one point also played Blasters, Blaster Blade Exceed. So again, I'm not sure if I did Vanguard after Exceed or before. I don't know, that whole era is a bit of a wash. Because again, I never topped during that time, so you know I don't have any achievements to link back to in those, I think it's 2 years or so. But yeah, I played a lot of Blasters as well with Blaster Blade Exceed. I never felt very confident picking Tavas competitively in that era because Tavas had basically been power creeped out and they had their GBT, I think, 09 support with Wailing Tavas, where all of the wave cards just sucked ass, like Janka and all of that stuff, just didn't do anything, so Tavas really got creeped out, was real bad. So I just played Tavas as my favorite deck, but then Blasters competitively because it was at least somewhat better. So with this deck, I quite consistently got X2, but that isn't enough to top. So I was either X3 or X2, and then, you know, not making it, and so again, I was still frustrated, like, why am I not topping? What am I doing wrong? It's probably because of all these cheaters. No, it's luck. No, it's cheaters. No, it's luck. And so, I mean, it was what it was. At this time, I was winning shop challenges, like, extremely consistently. So, no matter what I picked, whether I picked Tavas or Blaster Blade stuff, you know, I would almost always win my shop challenges, so I thought I was hot shit. I thought like, whoa, I'm winning these locals. So that is where my whole stereotype comes from, where I say there's local heroes, because that was me. The person who, you know, never broadened their horizons beyond locals, and then they do well at locals, and they consider them good at locals, and then at regionals they get slaughtered, and they blame it on luck and on a variety of other things. So this was basically where that local hero stereotype came from, because that was just me. I was decent, but I wasn't getting those results because I quite honestly was just not testing correctly. Not testing correctly and not building correctly. And those are two pretty major things. I think, honestly, my builds were like 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, which is good, but it's not enough. And especially if you then pair it with not testing correctly. So at this time, again, I would call myself local hero Timmy here, doing well at locals consistently, but just not getting those bigger results than that. I entered BCSs. I also entered CRC, which I want to shout out. It was a cool circuit that was also third party. I think this was probably the closest thing to ARG at their peak for Europe. So that was really cool. It was ran by Arno and some other of his friends, so shout out to that. I want to say that was in the fall with Blasters, but I'm not entirely sure. So then we had Springfest. The years that we had just been speaking of, Springfest had actually turned into a single circuit, so before this. So that's why I didn't really mention much team stuff just yet. They were singles, but now here we entered the era where some people bitched, where some people, oh, the G power creep got too bad. Me personally, I like this era a lot. A lot of decks got viable. I loved playing Great Nature at the time. And so for Springfest, I ended up playing ZTB, or Gear Chronicles. So our Chrono Jet Z right here was my baby that time. Basically, the reason was I had our team from locals, Team Excelsior. And so we had Nikki, who would always play Bermuda, and good for him, Ange was actually insane and coming out at that time, so he played, was he playing Ange or Coral actually? I'm not sure, he was either playing Ange or Coral, so he was always playing Bermuda. I thought that was best deck, but that was his favorite clan, so I let him play that. I played CTB, and then we had our other member, Jan, who would, I'm not sure, I think he swapped a little between clans, but very often he would play Pale Moon, like Pale Moon is his thing. And so I just played, you know, I thought ZTB was second best deck, so I figured we have best deck Bermuda, second best deck ZTB, and then Jan with Pale Moon, which was kind of rogue, but was still really solid. So we didn't end up doing great. I think we went X3, X2, I think we did 2 events. Something like that, I don't know. But at this time, once again, I didn't realize what I did wrong because I didn't test properly just yet. At that level, you know, you can look at the meta and you can make calls and you can say, oh, the list should be like that, and you will probably be correct. My deck building at this point, I think was just good. You know, I would give myself a pat on the back, like, good job, man. You can now deck build. So this was also at the time where my deck profiles on YouTube got some attention because I was, you know, winning the shop challenges and putting that in my thing, like top shop challenge list. And the lists were just good. So if anyone net decked at that time, they weren't getting shit lists generally, which is good. You know, I don't have to feel too bad about that. So yeah, Chrono Jet Z, I got destroyed. Once again, Jay was still doing great at that time. He had been playing Gear Chronicle for a century, so I get it. You know, he knew all the little ins and outs, because some people, you know, are saying, oh, Gear Chronicle broken, but playing ZTB to its ceiling wasn't all that easy. Like, there were quite some things you could do and not do that really made the difference between a good player with gears and a great player with gears. I wasn't that, and I realized that fully well. And so this is basically the time where they did the format split between standard and premium. And so I'm a big fan of G. I liked all of the little interactions it created, even though I wasn't good enough of a player to exploit them fully at the time. I did appreciate what they did for the game. And so I started testing a lot for premium specifically. We did some standard as well, but overall I will be going over all of the premium decks primarily here, though I'll try to, you know, mention stuff here and there. So this is the format split, and that's around where I meet Noman. And essentially what happened was I was talking to Noman about all the issues I had when it came to practice, like I wasn't testing correctly, I felt, and we started talking about variety of theory, and so we just went ham. That's basically a time where I had like, oh cool, Noman, you want to test? Noman, you want to test? Noman, you want to test? And so we got our BCS season 2018, and the thing was, Europe at the time actually only got 2 premium BCSs, and that made me mad but also extremely motivated. So in that pre-season, let's call it that, where you go to shop challenges to get your buy cards, I basically had the goal, like right now, I am going to get my 2 buy cards for my 2 premium BCSs, and I'm gonna murder these BCSs. Like, I figured out that I don't test properly. I'm gonna now test properly, gonna get these buy cards, and gonna conquer this fucking continent. That was the goal. First 2 shop challenges I went to, I won and I won. With Baskirk Premium, I just won them back to back, and then that wasn't the plan. Like, I didn't know I would be winning them all, but then the third one, I just gave the win to my friend who didn't have his buy card yet, because obviously, like, I didn't need a third one. There was no third BCS, so there was no point in having more than 2 buy cards, which is crazy, you know. If you tell an American, oh, you can have 2 premium BCSs, enjoy, like, nah. So that was ridiculous. That was a really bad time for premium in Europe because, you know, it's hard to instill that confidence when Bushiroad isn't even pushing it enough. So obviously they then fixed that, which is amazing. I was also very loud about it, how shit I thought that was. But so I had my 2 buy cards, and now it was time to go to BCS. So then we had BCS London. For standard, I played Grand Blue and went X2. So pretty sad because it was a lot of rounds. I think it was like 8 or 9 rounds. It was quite a bit. I went X2, my only losses being against OTT, which was arguably the best pick. I was aware of that, but oh well. And then I picked for Premium Grand Blue. So then I top 8'd with Premium Grand Blue. This was at a time where Grand Blue wasn't actually considered a top deck. Like, if you had to ask anyone what the best decks were at the time, people would tell you probably like Itchy Tom. They would tell you probably Geese. Geese not maybe best, but you know, solid. Spikes, Blasters. Probably those were the top decks at that point. And Grand Blue was a bit under the radar, but I figured that Grand Blue was actually really solid, and it was solid. So that was my actual first proper top. So basically the moment where I figured out testing properly, started testing with Noman, and really went ham, like actually got over that hurdle of I am the one doing stuff wrong. It's not all RNG, like there's proper things wrong that I need to fix, and I fixed them. That was when I got the first top. So that was, you know, really cool feedback essentially. I ended up losing to Geese in top 8 against Andrew Hesford, which is an amazing player. Essentially, I had accepted that my pick, Grand Blue, was good against the entire field except for Geese. Now, what's interesting is Ange was actually best deck at this time, but it just wasn't solved yet. So while everyone was crying about Itchy Tom and Geese, Ange was actually best deck, but just almost no one knew. So I don't know if Ange would have given me a run for my money, because again, the proper actual good build just wasn't solved yet. So for this event, Baskirk got that top 8. Very excited for that. All those deck profiles from this point, by the way, are on my channel. So if you want to have a trip down memory lane, enjoy. So now that I got my first top, I was like, well, I got one more event to potentially qualify Worlds, because like now I was like, the world's mine, bitch. I got my top, now I'm gonna do more. So then my goal on the next one was qualify Worlds. I actually ended up vlogging that entire experience, so you can check that on this channel. The video is called Road to Worlds. I think that's my best and most important video ever, because it basically shows you how I went from my first top 8 to that win. So, spoiler alert, yes, I ended up winning BCS France for Premium with NLK. So that was exciting. I was very happy for that. A lot of time went into that, but I'm not going to really go into detail because, again, you can just check it in that vlog. So BCS France, first place. So those were the only 2 premium events in that season, and I topped both and won one. Got that invite. It's funny how only 2 European players actually got the paid invite that season, while, you know, America had maybe 15 or something. So we had that, and then we had Worlds. So for Worlds, the format was basically gonna be Ezel, NLK. And I knew that. Those 2 are just the best decks, and it's not even close. And my idea was that if I play NLK and I go up against an Ezel that goes first and does their thing, I'm gonna die. If I play Ezel, you know, I need to consistently go first or otherwise I die. Because at that point, the Ezel deck was just pure high roll. It was high roll or die. You had nothing beyond your high roll. And so I figured I'd play Great Nature. My reason being, Great Nature could actually entirely counter pure NLK. Like NLK with 4 assassins. There was no other deck that could really do that properly. Great Nature could, at least the way I built it. Like, it was a very weird Cray Elemental Great Nature build. I also uploaded it to the channel. I thought I was so smart. I was like, oh, I tested this so much. I knew this NLK matchup is free now. And then the Ezels, you know, when I go first, obviously I auto-win it. And going second, I also had a pretty decent shot. So, like, I really felt like this deck was the answer for a meta that felt really solved. However, what happened after that was I got back-to-back Ezel pairings where they went first, hit the entire superior ride, high rolled me to shit, and I just died. I literally went, like 0 wins and just dropped because I was like, okay, guess that's it. So that was my Worlds experience. Just getting destroyed with Great Nature. Now, looking back, there were definitely things I should have done differently about the list specifically. Like, my testing was actually really good, and I do feel I had, you know, figured out a format. Interestingly, Kevin Cho in that Worlds also played Great Nature because he also felt that that was the best pick for that format. In my opinion, we were right, but it is what it is. Like, if Ezel high rolled you at that point, there was nothing you could do. But I should have built it slightly differently. Should have probably played some VC restarters to have more hand early. Maybe that could sustain me better. True Ezel. After that, we had Springfest. So there I thought, you know, Great Nature didn't work out for Worlds, but I will now still fix Great Nature. I'm gonna pick Great Nature in Springfest. It's all gonna be so great because this deck still has so much promise, and it didn't. I just got rolled and smoked and rolled. The big issue I realized there with Great Nature was that they did not plus whatsoever. And so while you could have these beautiful hands once you were given stride, all it took was your opponent just getting a little bit lucky early and, you know, not really minding just blasting your ass with damage, and you died. And that's what happened. People would do their Ange stuff on me. I don't know, at one point I played the Springfest France, I think, and you had this one guy who played Deleter Messiah, and I was like, oh, cool, you know, Great Nature can do quite some stuff against this, and he just went right up, crit, GG. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm done. This fucking dumbass Great Nature deck, I'm no longer playing it competitively. Even though I love the clan, just consistently, it had no early plussing at that point. 0. It was so shit. Because remember, you played all of these Mike Saburo Dugbill stuff, but if you did not open up like the nut, where you had Compass Line and a bunch of these, or Ocelot or whatever you played at the time, you just didn't plus, and all of your shield was small. Didn't like it. So then, for the Springfest after that, we were still in this same season, I decided to play Ange. Essentially, once again, I was like, well, I'm going to just play best deck, and we're going to do great. Our team was actually pretty stacked. We had a yellow card, Vanguard, Mohammed, which is the OTT god, and I don't remember what he played. I think he maybe played Wiseman Loop or OTT, I don't know. Yellow card played Ezel, but at that time, Ezel was still very high rolly, and I played Ange. We sadly went X2 and then didn't make it, so that was a bit sad. And the funny thing was, at this time, in my opinion, I had found some really spicy shit in Ange. I essentially started playing Seer in it, even though I didn't play any melody units. And what this allowed me to do was, Ange essentially you wanted to deny, because if you gave them a CB, they could do the Tross stuff. So they would superior ride on you and instantly have so much tempo that they auto won. But the thing was, because you wanted to get damage, you could never call rear guards to bash your opponent's phase in, because, well, then they could damage deny you. But by playing Seer without any melody units, you could, have 2 or 3 lines early game, bash your opponent's face in, and they would still have to attack your Vanguard and give you damage. So that made the deck so much better, oh my god. Sadly, I did not top with it, so then I just went, no man, here, have my list, enjoy, because, well, I can no longer have a Springfest with this list. The next Springfest is an entirely different format, so enjoy. And wouldn't you know it, he then won Springfest Houston with that list. So I was like, god damn it, man. I bubble with this shit and you just go. But that's fine, that's live. That's why you're friends and test together. You get each other's wisdoms or whatever. He helps me, I help him. So that was amazing. And then the final Springfest of that season was Springfest Cardiff. So remember, last season, I had done very well by topping both premium BCSs, qualifying for Worlds, like that was great. And now this season, I was just doing shit. From picking the wrong deck in Great Nature, getting blasted in Worlds, then getting blasted with Ange. I was just like, no, come on. I was afraid, like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Like, why am I not topping? So then, for Springfest Cardiff, I was like, you know what? We have this stacked-ass team. Because, yeah, we had Jay, Mohammed, and I. So I thought that was a good team. Jay had been topping for a century. Mohammed has been topping for a century. Jay figured stuff out real quick. Mohammed was always like one-tricking his specific line. So I thought we were stacked. We're going to take this. The funny thing was Springfest Cardiff was actually the first Springfest where we had premium collection. So Springfest Cardiff was going to be the first time where the West got their results. But this also means we had 0 results to go off. Japan had a few things, but it was still not a lot. So it was basically uncharted territory. We had to solve premium from 0, which was fun. That was honestly some of the most fun I've had. Just solving the Cardiff format. And so what we ended up with, Luard, DI, OTT. That was going to be our lineup until the evening before, when we were testing and we realized, man, Katrina is kind of broken. And like Jay was going to be the one playing DI, and he had to play like super big brain. Any mistake would make you auto lose on turns like Mauve and so forth. And it was like, why would I try to do this big brain stuff when I can just Katrina and destroy people? So last minute we changed our lineup. It was Luard, Neo, OTT now, and then we ended up winning the whole thing. I was very happy. I finally got another top and a first place at that, so that was great. That team just worked out great. Mohammed, I think, went undefeated with his OTT, which I still think was the best OTT list at the time. Almost no one net teched him, which was mind-blowing to me. So no one actually took the Oracle engine and put it in OTT. Like, everyone was playing this Panatone OTT garbage, and I thought just sucked ass, but hey, cool. That just meant it was better for me for the next season. So yeah, with a lot of confidence from this, I went into the next preseason. So once again, the season where you're basically trying to get your buy cards from shop challenges. So for these shop challenges, I played my own version of Mohammed's list. I still believe that OTT with the Oracle engine was either strongest or it was Ange. Because not many people realized that Ange actually drew a shit ton. Like, Ange drew so much. That's also why they had to hit her before our season even started. People were like, why Ange? Ange isn't even good because of premium collection. Well, actually, with Ange, you just drew 20 cards and went into time. It was crazy. But if you played it quickly enough, the deck was really, really strong. So in that preseason, I played some Ange and I played some OTT with the Oracle engine that no one knew about. I ended up getting all my buy cards, I believe, from the OTT deck. I don't know, something like that. But then I realized, hey, OTT kinda sucks. Why does it suck? Well, Ezel is now broken. Ezel, had always been a high roll deck, but because of the new set, I wanna say with Platina, you suddenly also had going second options. So instead of picking, the Oracle OTT build, which I thought was the best one, but no one beyond Mohammed and I seemed to see it, and again, shout out to Mohammed, he was the one who actually figured that stuff out, Ezel just destroyed regular OTT. People were crying like, oh, we need to hit HE2 is so unfair. I was like, like, dude, I hope everyone plays Itchy too. I'm gonna get the freest fucking tops of my life. Sadly, they hit Itchy, which then forced everyone into the new top 3 best decks. And those best decks were Ezel, DI, and Neo. So then we had that new triangle format where those were the best decks. I ended up attending 4 BCSs, I think. Yeah, and I topped 2 of those with Ezel. The thing is, it took a long time for WCC, and oh yeah, if you don't know that, around the time of Springfest Cardiff is when I actually joined WCC, and then Noman also joined, so that was pretty cool. But so, it took quite a while for us to actually properly solve Ezel, and so my first BCSs were with very shit lists. I played with a Lion still, like the self-damager, which really is greedy as hell, and sometimes it works out, you know, but overall, the greed just, you know, you had to high roll or your deck did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Hated that build. Then I swapped to the whole Kahedin build, which I did top in Rome, but then I got destroyed as well, and I realized, like, this deck, there's something wrong here, like, it's still not right, until the very end, where we figured out the build with Brenius, and you could double spear, which was something no one knew about. So then I got my top 8 in London. I died once again to Andrew Hesford in the top 8 of BCS London. So funny, the last time he beat me in BCS London top 8, this time he did as well. I did like catch him off guard with the Dismal retire trick. Essentially, you could ruin a DI player's game automatically by dismelling your own field, so their Brufas would have to retire their own field. No one else knew about that. I thought, here's my ace in the hole. But then I didn't end up getting like other stuff, and the match still went wrong. So that's stats. So I didn't actually qualify in that other premium season because, well, this is what it is. At first, I didn't have the proper Ezel list, and, you know, Ezel was just a pure high roll deck if you weren't playing that proper list. So then by London, I had it, but then I still didn't end up, you know, making it beyond top 8. So then we get to, well, that Worlds where Ezel ended up winning with that type of list, with the Brenius, with the double spearing and so forth, and of course also with Besok for the GB8 loop, which basically no one knew about. That was also very fun. And then we get into, well, the season that never happened, right? The lost year 2020. I had practiced so damn much because my goal essentially together with Jay and Mohammed again was to just conquer Europe. It was literally going to be, you know, we had some solid seasons, all of us. How about we actually, you know, conquer the whole fucking continent? That was the goal. And so our lineup was going to be, I'm not sure anymore, but basically it was going to be Grand Blue, Riviere, Katrina, DI, and then whatever Mohammed ends up deciding and playing. 2 of those 4, and then Mohammed with his special concoctions. He would always make like some crazy list, but those are the best decks. Essentially, Riviere obviously just got its support back there, so Trump was a really good deck with Selena. It was a bit overhyped, I felt, but it was still strong enough to pick. You had Katrina, which obviously was still just a powerhouse. They had hit Ezel to a point where it was no longer best deck. They also hadn't hit Gusty at that time, so those were going to be really good. However, they did end up hitting Katrina, so that kind of fell away. So my reason for Grand Blue, by the way, last season I already wanted to play Grand Blue because I already realized that Grand Blue auto won against Neo, auto won against Ezel, except for once they added Providence Angel, and then almost auto won against DI. So in my opinion, Grand Blue was actually one of the best decks in that prior season, but I didn't dare to take it because I was just so afraid of someone bringing Gridora. Literally that off-rogue pick. I honestly think I should have played Grand Blue when I was still running the shit Ezel list, because Grand Blue was for sure better than Lion Ezel that season. But regardless, so now we enter this team event where even if someone magically picks Gridora, and again, by this point people realized that Gridora wasn't the greatest deck, so there was already like less people picking it. But beyond that, even if someone picks Gridora, it was still a 1 in 3 chance of me even sitting in front of them because of the team structure. So I was like, well, I'm gonna play Grand Blue, my Kokaidos build. I have solid matchups against all the best decks essentially, and then our other seats can be the actual best decks, and we're gonna have a great time, right? Sadly, then COVID happened, and so this lost meta never came to fruition, which is very sad because I thought we were gonna have a great time. Overall, again, I mean, I didn't end up, you know, going too far into the other formats because obviously, like, we can keep on speculating, but we knew we weren't getting events, so I didn't practice as hard as I would have if we did get events. So now, You know, now we look at the future. We're gonna get our standard V premium overdress. I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see what kind of crazy decks we can come up with, right? I hope you found this interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know, like, maybe your history if you want to type it out. I'll gladly read it. And I will see you soon. Ciao.